Okay, continuing on. The termination and follow-up phase of the plan change process. Termination is the end of the professional social worker-client relationship. All relationships between a social worker and a client must eventually come to an end. The ending may be scheduled or unexpected, successful or unsuccessful. Ethical practice and critical thinking about termination. That tells us, is guiding us with the NSW Code of Ethics. It provides guidance about when social workers may terminate services to clients. Provisions for the code require termination when services are no longer needed or services are no longer serving a client's best interest. Termination should not occur abruptly, and the worker should always arrange continued service through referral when this is indicated. Termination must be based upon clear evidence that the goals and objectives have been achieved, and that is why critical thinking skills are important at this stage of the plan change process. Terminating professional relationships. Not all terminations occur as hoped. Be aware of this and be prepared to act professionally in any case that it happens. Tacit termination should include deciding when to terminate, evaluating the achievement of the objectives, evaluating the services provided by the agency and or worker, maintaining and continuing progress, resolving emotional reactions of worker and the client, and making appropriate referrals. Terminations may be planned or unplanned. Sometimes we can predict when the relationships will expire or terminate, and other times we have no idea when they will end. And often it can be abrupt to the worker and not only the client. Unplanned ones are fairly common. We still do follow up on them to determine why the client might have terminated early, but the clients have the right to terminate when they choose, and the client's right to self-determination should guide that. It may even be a positive sign when they terminate early. Maybe something happened that actually helped them resolve the issue faster. Who knows? Reactions and feelings in termination are a somewhat controversial topic because some believe that clients experience a significant loss when the relationship with the worker comes to an end, and others have come to opposite conclusions. The extent and range of emotional reactions vary and are typically determined by several factors, including the nature of the relationship that the client and the worker shared, the nature of the problems that they were trying to resolve, whether the ending was natural or forced, client strengths and support systems, whether the goals were achieved, and whether or not the termination in service or with the client being transferred to another worker. Generally, the client's sense of loss is directly related to the extent which the relationship focused on personal problems, such as grief, depression, or anxiety, or environmental issues such as housing. Amount of contact also affects the feelings because if the client barely meets a social worker, such as a medical social worker that arranged for a patient to have a hospital bed in their home, does not need to worry much because there was such a limited degree of relationship building that perhaps the client's only reaction would be gratitude. The size and type of the system. If you think about a community being helped to identify a number of problems as opposed to working 9 months with an individual recovering from depression, which client or client system is more likely to become emotionally charged at termination? Mixed feelings often characterize the conclusion of a professional relationship, especially if there was strong emotional sharing. There could be a loss, some experience of anger, and feelings of rejection. Others feel pride, satisfaction, optimism, or a sense of accomplishment. A worker's reaction to termination can also experience. A worker can also experience strong feelings at termination. Social workers can experience loss, grief, guilt, or disappointment. Guilt or disappointment, and they can be quite strong, especially if the client is who initiated the termination. Positive worker reactions to termination are more likely to occur when the terminations are gradual, when the worker felt a significant degree of control over the termination process, when the worker and client relationship was important to both parties, when the change goals have been attained, and when the worker wanted the termination. Social workers, no matter the way they feel about the termination, but especially if it is one they did not initiate, must be sufficiently self-reflective to recognize when these feelings occur and manage their reactions in a professional manner, always. Helping clients at termination. One of the ways to help clients through the termination process is by planning for termination. Start this early in the relationship, preferably at the beginning. Planning for termination and discussing it with the client will help reduce emotional attachment of the client to the worker and any resulting dependency. It can also help temper the feelings of loss that we discussed earlier If the services are time limited, it can help by reminding clients periodically how much time or how many sessions are left. It helps to address the feelings about termination or help clients express their feelings associated with termination. Sometimes it helps to share one's own feelings about the approaching termination. Summarizing the progress is an important task of the termination phase, and also because this is where we recognize client accomplishments and achievements. The techniques of planning for termination, uncovering termination-related feelings, and summarizing progress are three primary activities of the termination phase. Stabilization of change. There's evidence that changes that occur in the context of therapeutic relationships do not necessarily carry over into other areas of a client's existence, even though the goal is that the change in one area carries over into all other areas. There are 7 things that workers can do to help clients maintain and generalized changes. We can help clients see relevant and appropriate situations to work on. We can help clients build confidence in their own abilities. We can use multiple situations and settings when helping members learn new behaviors, which allow for multiple opportunities to use them. We can make use of naturally occurring consequences rather than creating artificial ones. We can extend treatment through use of follow-up. We can reduce setbacks in other environments such as school, the workplace, or the home. We can help members confront future problems by teaching them problem-solving process. Stabilizing change in small groups can be done with many of the same techniques that we use with individuals. There are techniques that are especially effective with groups, and many of these involve group activities. Additional approaches are needed when stabilizing change in large systems such as communities and organizations. We need to routinize, make it routine, the processes and procedures. Make them routine. That helps ensure that whatever is accomplished continues indefinitely because it is routine. Clarification of policies and procedures also helps stabilize change in large systems. Reducing the influence of the change agent or the worker in the agency's influence because it increases the client system's opportunity to operate independently. Addressing ongoing needs of clients can be done by letting the client know that you and the agency are still there if they find themselves in need in the future of assistance. If necessary, make referrals to other service organizations or persons. When we do client follow-up, that is the act of acquiring information about a client after termination. It is usually focused on how the client is functioning in those areas that originally brought the client for assistance. Following up with the client is finding out how the client is doing after your mutual formal relationship is ended. Too many clients do not maintain the changes that occur during the intervention phase. Several reasons are listed, and one is that going back to the old ways is easier than continuing in the new behavior. Another is that the environment doesn't support the new changes. Peers, family, and environment may all undercut the new behaviors. Sometimes failure occurs because the behavior was not established long enough to become the norm before the termination happened. Often social workers do not follow up with clients after termination because they're too busy, but there are a number of other reasons for not following up. While we should follow up, one is to determine if the client is functioning without intervention, and another reason is follow-up can also help determine if an intervention worked. Another reason that we want to do follow-up with our clients after termination is concerns offering what assistance is needed if the client is having difficulty. Doing the follow-up may be determined by the agency, such as what protocol to follow, when to do it, and how to do the follow-up. The protocol may include a letter or a phone call. It is helpful to remind the clients at termination that a follow-up will occur and the purpose for checking on their progress should be explained. During the follow-up, helpful information can be taken from the client involving how they felt about the program now that they've been removed from it for however long. If the client is in need of assistance at the time of follow-up, then the same worker may provide a referral. The same worker may provide the assistance, or they may need to do a referral to another practitioner. Assistance that could possibly be provided is advocating for them if they are getting run around from another agency or organization. If they report that they are having problems, then we can review and discuss the problems and problem solve with them to help them overcome difficulties. Another thing that can be done is prepare them if they need to come back to the agency, let them know. Overcoming barriers to follow-up, such as a heavy caseload, may be done by only selecting certain cases that are deemed high risk, or only doing every so many cases, like every 5th client case, and contact them to follow up. Another barrier is that a worker may not want to intrude on clients after termination, but this can also be alleviated by reminding the client during termination of the follow-up. Whatever the reason, follow-up should be done and be viewed as part of the professional obligation to clients. That's all. Next, we're going to be talking about recording. See you then.